I'd like to request the audience members to kindly be seated. We'll be starting the formal program in the next 10 minutes. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I request everyone to please be seated at their respective positions. We'll be starting very shortly. On behalf of the Institute of Chemical Technology, I welcome everyone who is present here today. Kindly take your places so we can begin the program shortly. I request all the newly arrived delegates and invitees to please take your place. We will begin shortly. Thank you. I'd like to welcome all the students, all the guests of honor, and all the delegates. We will be starting shortly. Kindly take your seats for the same. Good morning. I'm sure everyone here already knows what SusChemE 2.0 is about. So we're focusing on research on sustainability, and the theme for this year is catalyzing research and technovation for a sustainable future. I'm sure all of you are involved in this theme in some way or the other as an industry member or an academician or a student who's doing research in this area. I'd like to warmly welcome all of you on behalf of Institute of Chemical Technology. We are very happy to organize this event, SusChemE 2.0, and even happier to see this large turnout of members from ICT as well as outside. I'd like to request everyone who's arrived now to please take your seats. We will be beginning shortly. I'd like to invite all the dignitaries on the stage to kindly come and please take a seat on the dais. I'd like to welcome our chief guest for the day, Padma Vibhushan Dr. Anil Kakodkar, who's the chairman, Rajiv Gandhi Science and Technology Commission, and also the ex-secretary of the Department of Atomic Energy. We warmly welcome you, sir. I'd also like to welcome our guest of honor for today, Padma Vibhushan Professor M.M. Sharma, our very own from ICT. He was the former director of Institute of Chemical Technology. I'd also extend my warm welcome to Professor G.D. Yadav, who's the ex-vice chancellor of the Institute of Chemical Technology and emeritus professor of eminence, and my guide. I extend my warm welcome to Professor A.B. Pandit, who's the Honorable Vice Chancellor and also the Chairman for SusChemE 2.0. I'd also like to invite Professor V.K. Rathod, who's the convener for SusChemE 2.0 and also the head of the Department of Chemical Engineering at ICT Mumbai. I welcome all of you, sir. Thank you for coming. I'd first like to start by welcoming our guests with a bouquet of flowers. I'd like to request my friend Shubhangi and Ayushi to present each guest with a bouquet of flowers. First, I'd like Shubhangi to present the bouquet to our chief guest, Padma Vibhushan Dr. Anil Kakodkar, who's the chairman of Rajiv Gandhi Science and Technology Commission and the ex-secretary of the Department of Atomic Energy. Thank you, sir, for coming. I hope the round of applause does not stop here because we have our guest of honor, Professor M.M. Sharma, who's the former director of the ICT Mumbai. I'd like my friend Ayushi to kindly present him with a bouquet of flowers. Thank you, sir, for gracing us with your presence. I extend my warmest welcome to Padma Shri Professor G.D. Yadav, who is the ex-vice chancellor of ICT and the emeritus professor of eminence. I welcome you wholeheartedly, sir. Thank you for coming. I'd like to extend my deepest gratitude to the Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Aniruddha B. Pandit, who's also the chairman of SusChemE 2.0, and I would like to welcome him with a bouquet of flowers. Ayushi. And finally, the convener of SusChemE 2.0, our very own Professor V.K. Rathod, who is the head of the Chemical Engineering Department. I welcome you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Shubhangi. I would like to extend from all of us a very deep gratitude to all members on the dais for taking time and arriving at this event. We would like to start the event with the national anthem, which will be sung by Ms. Poonam Sutar, who is a PhD scholar working under the guidance of Professor Yadav. Poonam, please take the stage. I'd like to request everyone to please stand up for the national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंग विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उत्कल जलधि तरंग शुभ नामे जागे, तव शुभ आशीष मागे, गाहे.
To our state song, that is the Maharashtra state song. It will be played via recording. Apologies, I request everyone to please stand. Apologies, I request everyone to please stand.
काळ्या छातीवरी कोरली अभिमानाची लेणी,
ओलादी मनगटे खेळती खेळ जीव घेणी,
दारिद्र्याच्या उन्हात शिजला निधळाच्या घामाने भिजला, देश गौरवासाठी झिजला, दिल्लीचे ही दस्तराणी महाराष्ट्र माझा. जय महाराष्ट्र माझा, गरजा महाराष्ट्र माझा, जय जय महाराष्ट्र माझा.
Thank you. Apologies for the communication gap. We would like to proceed to play the university song, our own Rasayan Geet, which was written by Professor G.D. Yadav. And I'd like to ask everyone to also please stand for this as a sign of respect. Thank you.
Shri Rasayan Devike is the university song Vidyapeeth Geet, which was composed by Professor G.D. Yadav, Vice Chancellor of the Institute of Chemical Technology, Mumbai, on 27th Feb 2012, the Marathi Bhasha Din. It was released on the occasion of the first Convocation Day on 6th March 2012 in the august presence of the Honorable Chief Minister, Shri Prithviraj Chauhan, the Minister of Higher and Technical Education, Shri Rajesh Tope, and the Chancellor, Dr. R.A. Mashelkar.
The theme of the song is to respect nature and be in harmony with it by adopting green, clean, and smart chemical technologies, and to serve humanity with complete sincerity. It also talks about a confluence of chemical sciences and engineering with biological sciences and a world with no pollution, be it land, water, or air. Blessings are sought for disease-free long life. The goddess Rasayan Devika is a symbiosis of the basic concept, and the words have been chosen so as to depict that ICT will add to the beauty and charm of the Mother Nature.
The song was equally composed and sung by ICT students Jitendra Tongaonkar, Ashwini Tilak, Swanand Gangal, Prasad Surve, Sharad Darandale, Aditya Koli, Amrita Bhavne, Rohini Tangsale, Nupur Rathi, and Zui Raut.
संत तू कीर्ती रक्षिके जगन्मान्य तू महन् मंगले
अभियंता तंत्रज्ञकारिके शतप्रणाम हो तुझलायिके नवक्षितिजे नव चेतनादे रसायन देविके श्री रसायन देविके श्री रसायन देविके रसायन देविके
I request everyone to kindly take a seat. We will begin our function today with the lighting of the lamp, with the blessings of Rasa and Devika with us now. I again request Ms. Poonam Sutar to sing the Saraswati Vandana while our dignitaries start the event by lighting the lamp. I request our chief guest, Dr. Anil Kakodkar, and other dignitaries to kindly proceed for the lamp lighting.
या कुन्देन्दु तुषारहार धवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रान्वृता या वीणावरदण्ड मण्डितकरा या श्वेतपद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युतशङ्कर प्रभुदिभिः देवै सदा वन्दिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेषजाड्यापः निःशेषजाड्यापः निःशेषजाड्यापः.
Thank you to our dignitaries for beginning the function by lighting the lamp. Thank you, Ms. Poonam, for this beautiful rendition of the Saraswati Vandana. I would like to call upon the convener of SusChemE 2.0, Professor V.K. Rathod, who is also the head of Department Chemical Engineering at ICT, to deliver his welcome address to the gathering.
Dignitaries on the dais of the dais, especially our today's chief guest Padma Vibhushan, Dr. Anil Kakodkar, our guest of honor Professor Padma Vibhushan M.M. Sharma, Professor G.D. Yadav, Padma Shri Professor G.D. Yadav, Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor A.B. Pandit, students, faculty colleagues, fellow scientists and young researchers, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to all. As you know, today we gather here for an international conference on behalf of Institute of Chemical Technology, Department of Chemical Engineering, and this event which is supported by Chancellor Society of India. I welcome you all in this grand event called as Sustainable Chemistry and Engineering. This is the first edition of SusChemE was organized in 2015 in Hotel Lalit, and it was a grand success. We hope to continue this tradition of SusChemE, and that's why we organize this conference with the theme this year as catalyzing the research technovation for sustainable future. As you know, sustainable word nowadays is very common in the chemical fraternity also. Of course, not only for chemical, but for all, we can talk about sustainable concept. I still remember when I was student of chemical engineering, that time we used to learn that process should be selected based on the profit, based on the economy. But now we don't talk about the profit and economy, we talk about the three P's. One for people, one for planet, and the one for profit. The profit is third now. So any process we need to be a sustainable process. Not only that, when you talk about sustainability, it is not for chemical industry, it is for everyone. Even I go for any transportation should be sustainable. So this sustainable concept is very common nowadays, and that's why we, with this theme, we have came and started this SusChemE 2 also. Now, sustainability concept is used not only for chemicals as I mentioned. So we thought that we call this conference not only for engineers. So the theme is sustainability for chemistry and engineering together. So we need to have blend of chemistry and engineering together so that together we can have a sustainable processes, not only processes, we can say it's all over the world, what we do, we should be sustainable. So a distinguished feature of this event is that this event is organized in the honor of our beloved Professor Padma Shri Professor G.D. Yadav, former VC of ICT and currently Emerite Professor of Eminence and Science Chair, DST-SARB. The Chemical Engineering Department is proud to announce that we have put together this event to showcase the latest research in the areas of catalysis, sustainable chemistry, and clean energy. The importance of sustainability is well known to everyone. So I believe that this SusChemE is going to be the most comprehensive conference focused on the various aspects of sustainability. I am sure this conference will also provide an ad platform to the experts, industry professionals, and other participants to share their experiences. I will also inspire the young researchers to continue to work with dedication to further improve their skill and update their knowledge. For international conference, abstract were invited. We invited multiple people for this abstract from all over the country and abroad, and we received a very good response. Typically, we got more than 160 abstracts. Out of this, we selected 53 for oral presentation and almost 66 for poster presentation. And in this crowd, not only the oral presentation, this time we have invited more than 30 distinguished speakers so that we can share the knowledge of distinguished speakers to our delegates. In the next 3 days, I am assure you that you will hear many presentations from eminent experts. The ideas projected here will be used to improve the situation of human health, our environment, and for the benefit of humans. The discussion that will take place will enable the scientific galaxy to concentrate the subject talks about. I am sure that everybody who has participated in this conference will be illuminated and will be full of new ideas. As a convener of this conference, I express my sincere thanks and gratitude to the Institute Administration and Department of Chemical Engineering, Catalyst Society of India for taking the initiative to organize the conference event in the honor of Padma Shri Professor G.D. Yadav. Once again, I welcome you all in this international conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Rathod. Indeed, sustainability is not just a concept anymore. It's become a necessity that we must all accept in all walks of life. I'd like to introduce myself, rather late, but I would like to say my name is Sneha Shetty. I'm a PhD student at the Institute of Chemical Technology, and my research guide is Professor G.D. Yadav. So it is my honor to welcome you all to SusChemE 2.0. It's a carefully curated conference which brings together the stalwarts of the industry as well as the biggest names in academia, and it is just the right mix of these two. The idea behind SusChemE 2.0 is to highlight the necessity of sustainability in the chemical industry and also to expose all of you to a plethora of recent advancements that have happened in the fields of catalysis, clean energy, nanotechnology, biomass conversion, and many more. SusChemE 2.0 is doubly special because it has been organized in the honor of Professor G.D. Yadav, a name that already everyone here knows. Professor Yadav's illustrious career, and if I may say so, his entire life has been dedicated to research in the areas of sustainable chemistry. So it is only fit that SusChemE 2.0 coincides with his 71st birthday. Happy birthday, sir. I would like to move ahead and let us release the program document. I request our chief guest, Padma Vibhushan Dr. Anil Kakodkar, to release the program document along with the other dignitaries on stage. A round of applause would be ideal at this point, I think. I thank all the dignitaries for releasing the program document. I would like to call upon Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor A.B. Pandit and the Chairman of SusChemE 2.0 to address the gathering.
Thank you. Good morning. Chief guest of today's event, Padma Vibhushan, Dr. Anil Kakodkar, our honorary alumni, Padma Vibhushan Professor Sharma, guest of honor, the birthday boy, Padma Shri Professor G.D. Yadav, convener SusChemE 2, Professor Virendra Rathod, I'm sorry. I see many familiar faces, Padma Shri Dr. R.B. Grover, Dr. Jasra, Dr. Professor S.S. Bhagwat, the Director of ISER, Professor Lakshmi Kantam, Dr. Pankaj, Dr. Prakash Trivedi, Sangeeta. I'm very happy to see all these people here who have gathered to offer their support and tribute to Professor G.D. Y's contribution to the area of green chemistry, which is a part of 17 SDG goals. When I look around, it appears that very similar to our Honorable Chancellor, Dr. Mashelkar, who has a habit of passing on Mashelkar mantras, I see at the back that Professor Yadav is following in his footstep. And I can see at the back a GDY mantra. I haven't gone and read it that first, but I am sure it will continue what he has been preaching throughout his life. As was pointed out as an introduction to SusChemE 2, in fact, the first conference was organized by Professor Yadav in 2015, and it is but apt that the second conference is being organized in his honor. This conference indeed is going to address the issues, and all those who are here, my faculty from ICT, my students and faculty from all the branches or all the other centers of ICT, Bhubaneswar as well as Jalna, it has become necessary for us while we teach a subject, be it chemistry, be it engineering, it is necessary to bring in the concept of sustainability in the undergraduate teaching itself. You cannot have an end of the pipe solution to sustainability. You have to integrate the design methods, taking into account the sustainable design, sustainable chemistry, sustainable reactions, sustainability of raw materials, sustainability of engineering designs, fabrications, the lot. And with the commitment of Government of India of making India carbon neutral by 2070, it is mandatory for us that we as scientists and workers in the area of chemical sciences should put our brains and efforts together and try to reach that goal. Chemical engineers and chemists are most aptly suited to address these sustainability goals because chemical engineers learn material energy balance, and sustainability assessment is nothing but doing material energy balance of our globe, of our earth. What we should do is these concepts of sustainability, we should start addressing our own lifestyle and see how sustainable our own lifestyle is. And if we can practice what we are going to preach, I think the basic objective of the conference will be met. So at the end of the conference, I'm sure you'll all take some lesson home and will start integrating the learnings of this conference either during your teaching or your research or your design and help the cause of sustainability. So I would like to welcome you all on behalf of ICT and on behalf of conference organizers that you have supported this conference with full zest, and I welcome you and wish huge deliberations, learned deliberations over these 3 days. Welcome to ICT. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable VC Sir. I would next like to invite Padma Vibhushan Professor M.M. Sharma to please come and say a few words on SusChemE 2.0.
Our chief guest, Sri Anil Kakodkar, performer of the day, performer for decades, someone whom I have known for more than 50 years, ever agile, ever smiling, ever ready to do, even before you finish your sentence, is ready to pick up and do the job. The best tribute I can pay to him, apart from wishing him very good health, is that he is one of the rare persons in the history of UDCT, ICT, who is willing to give his life for this institution. And there are plenty of examples. And he has really accomplished many nearly impossible tasks. Getting government of Maharashtra to give IIT status, I think, is an extraordinary feather in his cap. I would like to particularly applaud this, and then creating new center, both in Jalna and along with IOC in Bhubaneswar. He has been working consistently. I don't know whether he sleeps properly because he keeps on writing papers, and he is now all sold out on CO2. I began my life on CO2 absorption. And it is such a hot topic even today because of the theme of this thing, sustainability. And I've been talking to Vaidya about some new aspects of CO2, because CO2 is the main culprit. And Ganpati, alias Yogesh, has been championing CO2 to whatnot. But I keep on giving him an alert that in chemical engineering, sustainability, A plus B going to C plus D, because rupees on the right side must be more than rupees on the left-hand side. So it's good to say CO2 will go to methanol, but then what is the cost of power from which you are getting hydrogen, or any other method which is championing cuprous chloride, cupric chloride method. I want to compliment the organizers of this function who considered it fit to have this on such a grand scale and pay tributes to a man who has performed, continues to perform, and will continue to perform. My tributes to him once again. You will see much more about him in my longish tributes to him in the souvenir that will come out, which I don't want to preempt. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sharma, for the delightful talk. I would like to request our Honorable Vice Chancellor A.B. Pandit sir to felicitate Professor M.M. Sharma by giving him a small gift from our end. I request the audience to kindly give a very big round of applause to Padma Vibhushan Professor M.M. Sharma. I request our Honorable Vice Chancellor to kindly come on stage and introduce our chief guest for the day, Padma Vibhushan Dr. Anil Kakodkar.
Thank you. At the request of the chief guest itself, since we are running a bit late, I'm going to introduce Padma Vibhushan Dr. Anil Kakodkar very briefly. Dr. Kakodkar is no stranger to ICT, and as I said, he is already an honorary alumni of ICT, so he is part of us. As he said in the morning that he was discussing with Professor Sharma, he said that I am there to come to UDC at the drop of a hat, which really means that every request which we make to him to come and grace the occasion, if his diary is free, he will definitely will come and grace the occasion. Dr. Kakodkar is known for his achievements in the area of nuclear energy, nuclear science. He is also considered as a pioneer and was considered as a gorilla who twisted and brought the nuclear deal in our favor. And a witness to that is another big contributor to that deal is Padma Shri Dr. R.B. Grover, who is also sitting in the audience. So very, very happy that Dr. Kakodkar has agreed to be the chief guest on this occasion, and without spending more time and don't want to take his time away, I'm going to request Dr. Kakodkar to address us all. Thank you.
Respected Professor Sharma, how shall I say, birthday boy or the center of attraction, but in whose honor this meeting has been organized and we have assembled today to felicitate him, Professor Yadav, Honorable Vice Chancellor of ICT, Professor Pandit, Professor Rathod, several very distinguished personalities present in the audience, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, it's always a pleasure for me to be here at IIT and at ICT, and as Professor Pandit narrated, that's actually true. So I would like to come to ICT at the drop of a hat, literally. So thank you for this opportunity to be here. This particular meeting, the Sustainable Chemistry and Engineering, which I don't know, could well be a brainchild of Professor Yadav. And in fact, when Professor Yadav took over as the Vice Chancellor, and then after that when I entered ICT, the corridors of ICT were looking different. And the sustainability, green chemistry were decorating a good part of the corridors. And that theme, of course, as Professor Sharma said, is part of the theme the whole of his life. The Institute song reflects that. So it's absolutely appropriate that the second edition of this meeting is organized in honor of Professor Yadav. Sustainability has become, to my mind, an existential issue. It's important in many ways, but I think when you hear people describing that we are in the last century, or recently I heard or read some description that these things have come to a point where there could be a population correction taking place, because if humans have not corrected themselves, the nature will correct them, and in that sense, so it has actually become an existential issue. It has manifested in many ways. Of course, currently we are all kind of completely seized with this challenge of carbon dioxide, the net zero target that we must all achieve, and so on and so forth. Now, of course, that's a matter where action has to be taken by many, many stakeholders in the society, the industry, the policymakers, general public and all. But I think you need institutions, more particularly academic institutions, to guide that process, to understand the challenge, to work out the solutions, and make those solutions and the roadmap for implementing those solutions visible to people. And in that sense, I would like to admire ICT for kind of being behind this scene, behind this theme in such a steadfast manner. Because only yesterday, right? Yesterday, I was in a meeting with Professor Yadav, and the theme of this meeting, the theme of the meeting was broader, but the theme of discussion with Professor Yadav was essentially, how do you produce green hydrogen? How do you valorize carbon dioxide? And how you can take this whole thing forward in a complete research translation ecosystem, beginning with research in the lab, a good part of it happening here, to taking it forward to industry and to the commercial scale at large. And I must say that the work that is happening here at ICT on the copper chlorine process, and also the work which is happening, it's actually gone much further at BARC on the iodine sulfur process. If I look at the contemporary things happening worldwide, one does derive some satisfaction that we are at the contemporary level. It's not as if, the many things, world says something, we react. I for one, and I'm sure all of you, would want to look to a day when India reacts to what world says. You reverse that to India says something proactively. World may react, may not react, that's another matter. But we know how to solve our problem. And I think in respect of these two processes, certainly ICT, BARC, many others, IIT Delhi is there, other institutions are there. But I think collectively we have done well out of the research and development that goes on. And of course, it is very nice to see that in terms of people looking for technology, you have not just the entities, commercial or business or entrepreneur entities within the country, but also outside the country, looking for such technologies. And that tells you the importance of the work that has happened here. So I'm sure there will be some presentations in this meeting to talk about that. Taking the same theme further, it looks to me that the so-called circular economy, one needs to take it rather seriously, work out different pathways of call it material transformation, call it energy transformation, to make sure that we don't create these cliff-edge effects on the sustainability of the earth as a whole. And that is, of course, I remember a book by James Lovelock. He has been one of the founders of Green Movement. And then, in fact, somewhere along the line, he transformed himself into a champion of nuclear energy. So I have been following him. And the book is titled Revenge of Gaia. It came many, many years ago. But this point that if we don't care about the sustainability, if we don't care for Mother Earth, then we could be subject to the revenge of Mother Earth itself, or the natural processes that take place on the earth. So in that context, I know this is far from any reality, but we are so much concerned about carbon or carbon dioxide. At the same time, we do require structural materials, or for that matter, materials in other form. And it looks to me that we all know that carbon, graphite, carbon fiber, these are all very important structural materials, and they give properties, some of the best properties you can get. So why can't we organize the chemistry and the engineering in such a way that we are able to, in fact, in petrochemicals, you do exactly that, we still make use of the resources that you get from Mother Earth, You extract hydrogen, put it to good use. Today, you don't call it green hydrogen. But if you take that carbon and don't allow it to go to atmosphere, but rather push it into solids of different kinds, could be petrochemicals, could be structural materials, could be textiles. Some of it is possible today, many of them may become possible tomorrow. But I think the research and development, in my opinion, probably should be driven to seek such answers. And if you do that, then we do two things. On one side, we address, because as development takes place, even population, we may say unsustainable, people may talk about population correction, but the fact is population is increasing, and we can't ignore strategies to provide good quality of life for all these people. And it is in that context, I think more materials, more energy is going to be a necessity. And to be able to do that, the Western countries who have already developed to a level where no further development may be necessary, they have a different way of looking at net zero. But for a country like India, and for that matter, most of the world, I think sustainability to us should mean both do everything to protect Mother Earth, but at the same time do everything to make sure that we can take our quality of life to a level comparable with the advanced countries in the world. And this is going to be a major conflict which has already started appearing, and the people would advise us that many of the studies by very respectable, very reputed institutions which I see, they actually underproject the energy requirements of this country, because they know that if you talk about energy requirements consistent with that best of the quality of life, you simply don't have that energy. Renewable energy is good. We must make full 100% use of renewable energy, but it's not going to be sufficient. And then if the fossil energy, you kind of treat it in a manner that's evil, and we only net zero means no fossil use energy, I think it's going to be a lot of harm to us. So we need to look at R&D somewhat differently compared to what's happening in the West, to protect our interests and to further our interests. Now, I think there are many other areas where, again, similar thing probably is valid. So I don't have to touch upon that. Plastics by itself is another area. Pharma is another area. For example, while pharma has done so well and such an important thing to make sure that our life expectancy increases, but you also have issues like the pharma, the waste products going into the effluent streams. And I'm not saying that that's the only cause, there are many other causes, but development of drug resistance. And it's a kind of causing a pollution which I don't know, going forward, you may end up in another kind of disaster. On the other hand, I know in a few institutions there is a lot of research, and I think ICT is again one of them, where one is talking about looking at the traditional Indian medicine, or the values which medicinal plants give us, both for the modern drugs as well as for traditional drugs, and sort of through research synthesize the two knowledge streams. And they are quite different, and I, for one, I'm quite concerned about how this will get synthesized, because the way we look at modern medicine and the way one looks at traditional medicine, they are poles apart, and synthesizing them is quite difficult. But I think that is what is required. And recently I came across a work which has been started by Tata Memorial Center at Khopoli, where they're actually talking about looking at the traditional medicinal plants and their role in treatment of cancer. I know only a few years back people used to hesitate. One of the conferences, the Ayurveda people, they in fact say, we don't claim that Ayurveda can treat cancer, but we can claim that Ayurveda can make the quality of life of cancer patients much better. Up to that they had come. But today we're talking about seeing whether we can actually do something in cancer. I think the same thing can be pursued in many other areas of healthcare. So the short point is, I think sustainable chemistry and sustainable engineering coupled with the concepts of both sustainability of nature, of course sustainability of the living species, more particularly the human species, and above all, movement towards circular economy. In fact, I don't know that economy is the right word, but circularity is very fundamental. In nature, it has been there all along. It is we, the human beings, who have disturbed that circularity. We're talking about rate processes which cannot be handled by the natural circularity. So I think there is a lot to be thought about, there is a lot to be researched about, and there is a lot to provide solutions to society, to industry, to policymakers, to put the sustainability in real practice. And I'm sure this particular meeting, I was seeing the program, there are some wonderful talks, presentations, and put together, I'm sure it will generate a fairly comprehensive discussion on how we should go about leveraging whatever is going on in the world at large, but thinking about what are the specific challenges we have in India, what should be our priorities, and organize our work. And I wish all of you all success in doing so. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anil Kakodkar, for an insightful talk. You are indeed correct when you say that sustainability has become an existential issue. And if we don't care about sustainability, it means that we do not care about Mother Earth. We must aim for circularity in all parts, in all processes and systems. I would like to request our Honorable VC to felicitate Dr. Anil Kakodkar with a memento. I request everyone to give a big round of applause to our chief guest for the day. Thank you, sir. I would like to call upon Padma Shri Professor G.D. Yadav for his response to SusChemE 2.0 and all that was spoken before him.
Good morning. The chief guest for today's function, Padma Vibhushan Dr. Anil Kakodkar, my guru and former director of ICT, UDCT then, and emeritus professor of eminence, Professor Padma Vibhushan, Professor M.M. Sharma, my revered colleague and the Vice Chancellor of ICT, Professor A.B. Pandit, the head of Chemical Engineering Department, Professor Rathod. In the audience, I see many stalwarts, starting with Dr. Grover, Sri Balachandra Rao Rane, Professor S.S. Bhagwat, Director of ISER. I also see the great lady, Professor M. Lakshmikantam, Dr. Jasra, the President of Catalysis Society of India, Dr. Prakash Trivedi, Dr. Sangeeta Srivastav, Dr. Samir Singh, Dr. Mohan and Dr. Umbarkar, and many others. Invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am overwhelmed simply because I am being honored on my birthday by organizing an international conference, Sustainability, SusChemE 2.0. And we started this series when I was the president of that Sustainability Conference 1.0. Many things have happened meanwhile, and this conference was supposed to be organized previously, but because of this COVID and all those things, which could not be done. And my colleagues and at ICT and Catalysis Society thought it worthwhile to have this conference in my honor. So I think I'm a singularly lucky person in the world when a conference is being organized on the birthday. So this is a great birthday gift to me. I can never forget this in my life. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Kakodkar mentioned about sustainability and the value of sustainability. We realized in ICT several years ago, we started a new program, MTech in Green Technology, where this is the theme: green chemistry, green engineering, sustainability, circularity, and all those things were part of this. And I teach that course to the students. So this is a unique program in the whole world. We started first time in India, and now it is being copied elsewhere. So ICT can always take a credit. But at the same time, industries sometimes think, what is this green technology? But I think these graduates are very good. They learn everything, all rudiments of risk analysis, hazard analysis, sustainability, you name it. So I think that program is doing well. As regards the theme of this conference, you know, everybody is talking about the net zero. But my personal belief is net zero is not the answer. Because net zero, what is your net zero? The advanced nations are talking about net zero by 2050. China is saying 2060. India is saying 2070. But on a brighter side, some of the companies in Europe and America, they have adopted it and they have set a goal for themselves. And they said they would like to do it by 2040. And since it is industry which has to do it, remember, before the pandemic began, in January 2020, the atmospheric carbon dioxide concentration was 410 ppm. We started with something like 260 ppm in 1750. And although there was no economic activity during that particular year, we added 2 more ppm in January 2021. Today it is 424. That means we have added more carbon into the atmosphere, and unless we take that carbon out, we will not have the so-called 1.5 degrees Celsius rise. That is what the Paris Accord or agreement said. So remember, in 2020, we emitted 35 gigatons of carbon dioxide. Today, it stands as 36.8 gigatons, that is 36.8 billion tons. Unless it is brought down to something like 10 gigatons, you cannot have net zero. And there was an alarming report on May 17, 2023 by World Meteorological Organization. They said, we are going to breach this 1.5 degrees C in 2027. That means we have to act now. And whatever is within our command, we must do that. So what is the solution? Renewable energy, nuclear energy, solar energy, wind energy, hydrogen energy, geothermal energy, hydro, but not carbon. Carbon should be used for making chemicals and materials, and neutrality in that sense is all right. Yes, why government of India is proposing to add, bioethanol to petrol and diesel because we want to reduce the bill. Our import bill has to be reduced. But that is not the solution in the long run. Yes, we can do it up to 2030. But we have to go for this so-called renewable energy, green energy. And green hydrogen will be playing a very important role. According to me, solar energy, wind energy, and hydrogen energy, this is the new trinity, like Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. And in that, hydrogen will be the prime devas. Devas is a Sanskrit word, that means deity. Hydrogen will be used to convert biomass, waste biomass at that, into chemicals and materials and fuels and whatnot. So that is the solution. And if I have a bioethanol, I better go to ethylene and make variety of chemicals. That will add value and will not pollute the atmosphere. That is the solution which is required as far as the sustainability is concerned. Okay, otherwise we'll have no future. And it is predicted, again it is predicted by the IPCC, that if we do not have technological intervention now, temperature of the globe may rise to 6 degrees C in 2200. That is the end of the world. That will be end of the world. So it is important for every stakeholder. We should not be saying that America should give us technology or Europe should give us technology. We should develop our own technology because we are the now most populous country in the world. We'll be adding more because our energy requirements are increasing day by day. So I think India has to take a lead. Then China. Believe me, 29% of the countries in the world do not have net zero goal. It is the others which have the net zero goal. So we must be in that. 25% China, 12% USA, rest of the European Union, and India is in another 29%. So I think we should take upon ourselves to develop technology, indigenous technology, and export this technology. Because our government says by 2030 we'll be exporting 900 gigatons of energy, gigawatt rather. How do you do that? Unless we develop that so-called green energy. So ladies and gentlemen, the whole emphasis of this conference is to find out solutions, how to reduce waste. We talk process intensification, we talk all sorts of things. And one of the things, chemical engineering students are always worried these days. Chemical engineering students think there is no future, but I would like to tell them, it is going to be the recycle engineering where you require chemical processes, biological processes, nuclear processes, and also physical processes. If you recycle, if you don't recycle, we'll require 3 years. In the so-called linear economy, we will require 3 years. So circularity is very, very important for us. And believe me, nuclear energy is going to play a very important role. And sadly, our people have wrong ideas about nuclear energy. Nuclear energy will be the cleanest form of energy, and it's the safest also. But the society doesn't think that way. That is the sad part of it. So ladies and gentlemen, in this sustainability conference, I hope you will do well. Somebody may talk about green hydrogen, somebody may talk about blue hydrogen, somebody may talk about turquoise hydrogen, somebody will talk about so-called gray hydrogen, because right now also refineries emit 11 tons of carbon dioxide per ton of hydrogen, and they require hydrogen in 8 processes. Right now the requirement across the world is 30 million tons of hydrogen in refinery. So you imagine how much hydrogen is required. And they say by 2050, we'll be requiring 690 million tons of hydrogen across the world. So we have a lot of scope of doing research and innovation. Sir, thank you very much for mentioning my work on copper chlorine cycle. We are really interested in taking this to the next level, and we are going to do further experiments in Ipsum, Goma, as I was telling you yesterday, and there are a lot of companies which are interested in our work on carbon dioxide to methane, carbon dioxide to methanol, carbon dioxide to dimethyl ether. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I'm indebted to you for organizing this conference in my honor, and I bow before you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Yadav, for that insightful talk. You highlighted that the typical net zero is not the goal, rather the focus should be on clean energy. and circularity again is the way to go. I would like to invite Professor P.R. Gupte from the Institute of Chemical Technology to kindly deliver the vote of thanks and conclude the inaugural function at this point.
Hi, good morning everyone. So we are just coming to close of the formal inaugural function. The celebrations have just started and I'm sure everybody is going to enjoy a lot of academic interactions as well as networking. Many of you are associated with ICT for a long time, be it as alumni or be it as some interaction. So people are going to enjoy that definitely. First and foremost, I would like to thank our esteemed chief guest, Padma Vibhushan Dr. Anil Kakodkar, and also our guest of honor, Padma Vibhushan Professor M.M. Sharma. Now, both these great stalwarts said that they like to come to ICT and interact with people. I would like to confirm on behalf of all those present at ICT that we also equally enjoy listening to you, and it's always a great thing. Our sincere appreciation also to our Chancellor, Dr. R.A. Mashelkar, and also Vice Chancellor, Professor A.B. Pandit, for providing the facilities. Dr. Mashelkar will not be able to come today, but we'll have a recorded speech from him. Professor G.D. Yadav, he doesn't kind of require an appreciation as such, at least from my end, but let me wish my another round of personal wishes on his birthday. And it's always again great to listen to him, listen from many others about what Professor Yadav has done for ICT. So thanks very much. I would like to also thank the convener for the event, Professor V.K. Rathod, the local organizing committee, the student volunteers who have contributed day in and day out for organization of this particular event. Last but not the least, all our sponsors, the platinum sponsor, Reliance Industries Limited, our gold sponsor, Godrej Industries and Pidilite Industries. We would also like to thank Ether Industries, DMCC, Clean Science and Technology, Cohen's Life Sciences, Bagaria Industries, Galaxy Surfactants, Praj Industries, Tata Chemicals, Aarti Industries, Kunash Instruments, and American Chemical Society for sponsoring this particular event. We would also like to acknowledge the support of Catalyst Society of India, Mr. Jagdish Patankar, Mr. Mangesh Vichare, and the team from Active SciTech Communications. Finally, the media partners Chemical Weekly, Modern Plastics India, and Biospectrum. Right, as I just said, it's just the beginning of the celebrations, which is going to continue for 3 days. And I was just talking to Srinivas, and when they organize conference in Goa, it's a jam-packed auditorium for inaugural function, and then slowly people disappear. But I'm sure the interactions here are going to be in all the parallel sessions, and looking forward to some great talks by the dignitaries. Thank you very much.
I thank Professor Gokte for delivering the words of thanks. I would like to again thank everyone that Professor Gokte mentioned. And I'd like to inform you all to kindly be seated as we will directly be going into the plenary talks by Professor M.M. Sharma. I'd like to invite our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor A.B. Pandit, to kindly introduce Professor M.M. Sharma before he delivers his plenary lecture. So.
We would like to listen to Professor Sharma ourselves, so I'm leaving the stage to Professor Sharma and we are going to join you in the audience.
I thank all the dignitaries on the dais for their presence and their time.
Hello.
I hand over the stage to Professor M. Sharma for his first plenary lecture.
Let me start by saying that sustainability will not be possible without chemists, chemical engineers. Sustainability is definitely possible, but without inputs from this community, it will not be possible. Since Catalysis Society is also a sponsor, and I wish to give large number of examples of how clean processes, green processes were in vogue in chemical industry long before it became fashionable to talk about green chemistry. We are talking of an industry which has more than 100,000 products in the market with a turnover of more than $5 trillion per annum, pharma alone $1.3 trillion per annum. Largest chemical company in the world is BASF with turnover more than $80 billion per annum. I'm going to take you through a very long journey to explain to you how sustainability was an integral part, greenness was an integral part of chemical industry. So I'm going to begin not with my pet theme of soda ash because it was a different cup of tea. I'm going to start with the king of chemicals, sulfuric acid. It was all lead chamber process. NOx, which is colorful, was seen in the atmosphere, and people were objecting to operation of sulfuric acid plant. And as you know, sulfuric acid is indispensable for chemical industry. And that gave birth to the first important catalytic process showing greenness of, even it was called contact process because the gases came in contact with catalyst. And many of you won't appreciate that continues to be an adiabatically operated reactor. And in spite of more than 100 years, when we talk that technology is mature, it's an absurd statement. No technology is ever mature. And sulfuric acid is a classic example, and with follow-on of ammonia, which is considered as biggest ever breakthrough in the history of chemical industry, and that how we were able to use a catalyst to coax inert nitrogen and hydrogen to make ammonia. And people have not realized that it was outstanding example of complete recycle because there was no other option. And in the context of that, one of the rare occasions in the history of chemical industry that reactant were always in stoichiometric ratio nitrogen and hydrogen because unconverted nitrogen and hydrogen were recycled. Imagine the kind of developments that are taking place. Where was energy consumption in ammonia plant of more than 14 million kilocalories? Today it is below 7. All attempts are being made to get catalysts which can operate at lower temperature, therefore lower pressure. Again, a hallmark of sustainability. Ruthenium-based catalyst is already in commercial operation as an add-on. As an add-on after the normal iron catalyst of Haber. By the way, Haber had tested 5,000 catalysts. That shows the patience of a physical chemist to come out with something most useful to the society, although originally meant for making nitric acid. Then fertilizers came in its wake. Nitric acid making itself was a classic example of sustainability. That you could oxidize ammonia to NO just with a platinum rhodium gauze catalyst with conversion efficiencies of more than 95%. And if you are willing to operate at lower pressure, even higher than that. won't you consider this as an outstanding example? From this, I will jump to a classic example of a polluting process of making ethylene oxide via chlorohydrin to be replaced by catalytic process. And it was a silver-based catalyst in 1930s. And at that time, in relation to theory, ethylene oxide yield was only 60-65%. Today, thanks to another theory, it is close to theoretical, which comes to a figure of 84.6 or 85%. That is the kind of progress that one has made in science and practice of catalysis, and to what extent this has reduced the carbon dioxide emission. I want you to see that how we were concerned with carbon dioxide emission in chemical industry ab initio. Ethylene oxide was one classic example where carbon dioxide emission today have been brought down because your conversion efficiency today is 85% versus 65%. Now this is now translated to propylene oxide. But I want to jump the queue and tell you, Second War, which brought in its wake dire necessity for Allied forces to make synthetic rubber by hook or crook. 55 companies were marshaled. And it's an outstanding example of how butadiene was made by different routes. Acetylene based, 2,3-butylene glycol ex-fermentation based, and butene dehydrogenation. First example of high temperature catalytic dehydrogenation was butene to butadiene, marshaled by a man called Eugene Houdry, who was a mechanical engineer, and at them we had box reactors. So you needed switch on because coking will take place, and he had to develop valves which will operate at 650 degrees centigrade. That process is being invoked again to boost the production of butadiene, because most of the ethylene in United States today is by ethane cracking. That itself is going to be an example. In fact, naphtha cracking is an example where you fire naphtha in the furnace, because this is operated 850, 900 degrees centigrade. Today we are at an advanced stage of piloting electrically heated coils and electricity coming from renewable sources. A large-scale pilot plant is already in operation. So you see the kind of emphasis chemical industry is giving in this. When you talk of sustainability, greenness, I'll keep on giving you examples after examples. And the first outstanding example is complete displacement of rapid chemistry. Rapid chemistry was an outstanding example of inorganic chemicals giving birth to organic chemicals. Calcium carbide giving you acetylene, and acetylene, every damn thing you could think of, whether it was ethylene, whether it was butadiene, whether it was vinyl chloride, whether it was vinyl acetate, whether it was acrylonitrile, all of them were made from acetylene. And acetylene to vinyl chloride use mercury as a catalyst. Thanks to development in science of that, today we can use gold-based catalyst. But it is not a viable option because very energy intensive. So entire acetylene-based chemistry is now in oblivion, and everything is now based on ethylene, propylene, butadiene coming ex-hydrocarbon. And that is what is going to change the scenario of the entire petroleum refining industry, because petroleum refining industry, which was entirely dependent on fuels, petrol, gasoline, aviation fuel. Aviation fuel will remain intact for a very long time. But diesel and gasoline are strong candidates for EV. Therefore, don't be surprised if some of the petroleum refinery companies, 30 to 40% of their feedstock is going to be converted to petrochemicals. And Reliance provided the lead first time in India, where a very substantial percentage of the largest single location refinery in India devoted its products to petrochemicals. But this will intensify in the coming years. I mentioned to you that acetylene was used for vinyl chloride. Today you do everything from ethylene, EDC, crack EDC. Similarly, acrylonitrile was made from acetylene and SCN. Now you can see the hazards in this. And in late 50s, early 60s, one saw a very major breakthrough, both from point of view of catalysis and from the point of view of engineering. And I'll tell you why I consider this as a very outstanding example when ammo-oxidation of propylene came to make acrylonitrile. And I'm never tired of quoting this example that in early 60s, just like in 70s, overnight the price of crude oil went up by 3 times. But many don't remember that in early 60s, the price of acrylonitrile dropped one night from 33 cents a pound to 11 cents a pound because acetylene, SCN or SCN-based processes were replaced completely by propylene ammo-oxidation, where SCN came as a co-product along with acetonitrile. You can see for yourself. Now, these fluidized bed reactors make the operation very safe. But let's go back how fluidized bed reactor came, and that was during Second War, when there was a need, more and more need for gasoline. So cracking was designed. Thermal cracking was done in as early as 1920s and 30s. But cat cracking came, and fluidized bed reactors, a great innovation of chemical engineers, it came into operation without really understanding hydrodynamics of fluidized bed reactors. So sometimes practice precedes theory, and this is an outstanding example that how large-scale fluidized bed reactors were put into operation without really understanding, because there was a need during war. War was very destructive, very, very constructive from point of view of new processes for chemical industry. I cannot help but giving the biggest innovations in 1930s. The most outstanding example ever in the history of chemical industry. Just as ammonia was an example, nylon was the first major product and perhaps the only one till date which was entirely discovery-driven. The same nylon saw market-driven. But what I want to tell you about, in a way, sustainability of a very different kind, that how adiponitrile was made, because in college chemistry you hear Markovnikov and anti-Markovnikov reaction, and how SCN was added to butadiene by anti-Markovnikov using a very good catalyst. And that is how adiponitrile was made by DuPont, the inventor of. Same time polyester was developed, and polyester made such a revolution. In fact, it's a classic example. People don't realize that polyester apparel has created immensely to sustainability. Why? Because, let's take saris, they last forever. They literally last forever. They use very little water for washing. They dry in a very short time. Isn't that a good example? People don't quote that as a very good example of sustainability versus cotton. The problems of growing cotton, the insect problem in cotton notwithstanding BT. Then amount of water that you require, first in the textile mill, amount of water that you use, amount of energy that you use. You look at the entire chain of polyester, everything is a clean process. And oxidation of paraxylene to terephthalic acid, unlike the initial part when xylene was oxidized with nitric acid. Many people won't remember that when ICI and DuPont simultaneously invented polyester, the original process of ICI was nitric acid oxidation of paraxylene, and that led to N2O emission, also NOx emission. And worst, some nitro group came in the terephthalic acid, and they had to purify. Imagine how this unsustainable process got replaced by a sustainable process with very high yield of paraxylene oxidation. And you want to see wonders of catalysis, how cobalt manganese in combo. And if you read the theory of how this combo catalyst works, you will see. This is a very outstanding example of a very sustainable process. Now this theme continues because we keep on developing processes which are benign. And this theme continues for all time to come. Let me give you a nice example of everybody loves automobile. Now, do you look at the number of automobiles? I think no road is left in Bombay where there is no parking. In the place where I stay, I sort of euphemistically renamed this as Runwal Park to Runwal Car Park. You know, that is the kind of. But imagine how catalysis scientists, chemical engineers created automobile exhaust catalyst. So you have no CO emission, and people are also taking care of NOx for diesel. So we have contributed a lot in preventing pollution. People don't applaud what good things we do. You only keep on criticizing some silly things that happen out of municipal problems. Coming back to the unsustainable acetylene-based process to make acrylic acid. How neatly we make acrylic acid from propylene, acrolein, acrylic acid. In the wake of that, methyl methacrylate, the transparent plastic that is made from it, which was all acetone, SCN-based process, today it is isobutylene, methacrylene, methacrylic acid process. I want you to also ponder over about what kind of chemical engineering goes in the downstream, apart from invention of the outstanding catalysts in this. I am now going to tell you something more charming. But before I do that, I want to take you to 70s because our hero was the first contributor of phase transfer catalysis. He was the first person ahead of all organic chemists to do phase transfer and also commercialize. Now, what did it do is a bit of an antithesis to generally what you see. Normally, you will be told homogeneous reactions are very good. But here was a classic example that number of processes will benefit reducing pollution by having biphasic system. And it was good that one of the UDCT student itself took up this thing and became a very thriving businessman, one gentleman called Vyas. He picked up the idea on the basis of the work that was going on in UDCT then. Now, this business goes on and on and on, and we keep on hearing about, but I'm going to tell you some charming things. And I'm going to first pick, see, number of Nobel Prizes that have come. First, in number of Nobel Prizes in catalysis, starting before even Haber. Now, meta-thesis. I consider that as an outstanding contribution in so many ways. And the funny part in chemical industry, you can never rest on your past laurels. Meta-thesis started with surplus propylene when propylene was 60% of ethylene cost. And Phillips Petroleum Company did meta-thesis of propylene, 2 moles of propylene going to butene 2 plus ethylene to maximize ethylene production. This has become redundant, but reverse is practiced on a very large scale, that you take butene 2 coming from cat crackers, from naphtha crackers, and you are increasing the yield of propylene because propylene price is now at the very minimum equal to ethylene, often more than ethylene price. Now, what a wonderful thing. Can you imagine what wonders we do? Here is a propylene molecule. You chop and stitch. You make the molecules dance. Isn't that an extraordinary achievement? It is. And how this theme has gone into the pharma industry, in the polymer industry, is an outstanding example. Nature is always our hero. Nature does such complex molecules at ambient conditions, whether it is rubber, whether it is pinene, whether it is silk, whether it is our shellac. We have yet to match that. But at least some success has been achieved. Menthol comes by cultivation, but we are also able to make optically active menthol by a synthetic process. So asymmetric synthesis was yet another major breakthrough. Why it is an example of sustainability, I'll explain to you. Because if you resolve racemic material, half the part, how do you valorize that? It's not easy to re-racemize that unwanted isomer. So you have an unwanted ballast 50%. If you are able to do asymmetric synthesis, then you are able to get rid of this ballast, and the price comes down radically. For example, 2-aminobutanol, which goes for ethylbutol, if you are able to make optically active molecule, you will bring down the cost of D2-aminobutanol to 40% of the present cost, or even less. So this business of doing asymmetric synthesis, for which Nobel Prize also came, is a very, very outstanding example. But in this context, I want to talk about something that is biocatalysis. We are terribly weak in our country in this area. Directed evolution of Francis Arnold is going to revolutionize. Just last week I was reading that people are able to make nylon by fermentation. Pharmacine is already, vanillin is already at the pilot semi-commercial stage. Think of anything you will be able to do, but the kind of development of enzyme that you have to do through this directed evolution, very, very involved computational work. Many attempts have been made. I was personally associated, but I regret to say that we have very little success to show from Indian side. And this is an area crying for biotransformation is going to change the map of chemical industry, very sustainable, and chemical engineers will contribute in a very big way. The course that we ushered in UDC, with emphasis on downstream processing, because all fermentation processes require downstream processing, whether lactic acid or hydroxybutyric acid and so forth. Then I'm going to now talk about what other than catalytic processes have done to sustainability, and that is membrane separation, starting with everyday item in India of RO. What membrane separation is able to do is an outstanding example of sustainability, because if you are to make fresh water, drinkable water from seawater by distilling, how much energy will you consume, how much carbon dioxide will you have, and right at ambient condition you are able to convert seawater into drinkable water by RO. Oh, isn't that an absolutely outstanding example of sustainability? And there also, thanks to the synthetic fiber technology, we came out with hollow fibers. And what is the impact of this in the quality of life? Those who suffer from nephrology, kidney disease, how dialysis is done thanks to this innovation of chemical engineers of having done RO. But it doesn't stop here now. Quite apart from microfiltration, we now have nanofiltration. Nanofiltration membranes, thanks to developments in polymer science, we are able to have polymers which can stand highly polar solvents like dimethyl formamide, dimethyl acetamide, and we can sieve out molecules with molecular weight more than 250. And attempts are now being made to bring it down to 200, if not 150. How much difference does it make to sustainability? Because purification of these molecules, how much energy is consumed, how much waste stream that you have out of that. Hang on, this is not, the next charming thing from membrane is the charge membrane, where a divalent ion is separated from monovalent ion. Imagine sodium sulfate impurity in sodium chloride, not acceptable to a membrane electrolysis. And you are able to do this with a charge membrane. And it is in commercial operation. You will see many more developments on charge membranes in years to come. Earlier, we talked about this perpetual theme of CO2 absorption. Outstanding example to show that no technology is ever mature. The kind of developments and number of papers are coming in the literature for reducing energy consumption in CO2 absorption, desorption, and fortunately some work has been initiated in ICT. I'm happy to see that Vaidya has taken up this work. But it was an outstanding example. Also, why physical absorption doesn't lead to the economy, and why chemical absorption had to be about. In that case, let me give you truly the most outstanding example of H2S. How big a nuisance was H2S from sour natural gas field in hydrodesulfurization processes. The number which Dr. Yadav quoted, actually it may be much higher than that, because we are burning 5 billion tons of hydrocarbons. We are using more than 5 to 6 billion tons of coal. China alone, authentic figures are not available. It may be 3 to 4 billion tons per annum. To find out how much carbon dioxide is going. So everybody is working in the direction of CO2 absorption, desorption, and energy consumption in desorption is a bug. And to make it more sustainable, that you are trying to find out very novel ways. Same way in terms of making crystals which subscribe to the right polymorph, because that is very critical in the pharmaceutical industry. Kakurkar Sahib has gone, but the major contribution chemical engineers made was in hydrometallurgy. And it's an outstanding example that how lean ores can be processed not by pyrometallurgical methods, which are energy-wise very harsh. You know, today attempts are being made to make iron not by the blast furnace process, but by electrochemical, because electrochemical thing is going to come to center stage. I'll explain to you why electrocatalysis, which showed its might in the case of caustic chlorine cell, how electrocatalytic processes are going to, with distributed energy available, how we will be able to run electrochemical cells both for anodic and cathodic. We'll be able to do oxidation and reduction in the same cell, making two important products. In spite of having SICRI in India, I regret to say that we have not commercialized a single important electrochemical process for fine chemicals. The best of my it's an area crying for. Now, what can happen? There are many things I can keep on talking. And since we had a delayed start, I want to prune the time given to me. But I'm going to talk about how chemical industry is going to be associated with nuclear. Our needs for energy, apart from standard renewable energy, mind you, both solar power and wind power are impossible without produce of chemical industry. Whether the wings are composites, you need neodymium, you take anything in solar, they are all inputs of chemical industry. You call them renewable. Just as I always give a classic example that how do you purify water going to very high pressure boilers, I'm talking of supercritical one, where the need for dissolved salt is less than 5 parts per billion. Imagine how do you remove sodium chloride at 5 parts per billion by using ion exchange resins. Otherwise, you would have consumed a lot of energy, you would have found it difficult, and you would have had problems of salt deposition in the boiler. If you make a simple calculation that you had 1 ppm of salt in 1 year, how much salt you will deposit in the boiler tubes, you will be astonished to get the number right. What kind of pressure swing adsorption, of course, has become part of the vocabulary. Everybody knows in India, it's a great gift. Why it is so critical from a sustainability point of view? Because pressure swing adsorption consumes less energy, much less energy than you require by cryogenic operation. Membrane also. But you want pure nitrogen, you want enriched oxygen, PSA is ideal. No wonder, therefore, all cryogenic companies which were doing nitrogen-oxygen separation, today all of them have membrane separation as well as pressure swing, because there are different niche areas where each one of them. What can happen in the coming years? What kind of processes might change the dynamics? Just as shale gas made a big difference to entire hydrocarbon industry, America, the biggest importer of crude oil, became exporter. Something similar is going to happen when we start harvesting natural gas hydrates. Fortunately, India is endowed throughout the coast and some portions of the coast having very, very rich natural gas hydrates. The day we succeed in harvesting this natural gas hydrate will completely change the dynamics of methane. methane will remain indispensable. Just as when you talk of carbon dioxide, one important area which somehow people are not flagging in India, which is becoming very prominent, is dry reforming of methane. Methane plus carbon dioxide going to syngas, a very elaborate pilot plant, and scientists in catalysis have published many papers. There was a problem of stability of the catalyst, which I believe has been now solved. So this dry reforming of methane will come centristic. But methane availability is there, and how we can twist around methane to directly convert methane to methanol. Is that an impossible task? Can we convert methane, single carbon atom, to ethylene? There are papers in the literature. Just as there are papers in the literature how benzene can be coaxed to react with oxygen, not hydrogen peroxide, or hydrogen and oxygen in situ hydrogen octophenol, how it will change the dynamics. So this kind of valorizing hydrocarbon in a very novel way. I also talked about large-scale petrochemical plants integrated with modular nuclear reactors, which will provide 50 megawatt power, because very large-scale petrochemical units easily consume, if they don't have caustic chlorine, even then 50 megawatts to 100 megawatts. And we have these modular nuclear reactors. It will make a world of disease. You can also integrate with the steam requirement. Let me talk about another. Since H2S production is in very large quantity, if you took 5 billion tons of hydrocarbon and took an average sulfur content of 1%, think for yourself. Today, all H2S, thanks to developments in catalysis, that you are able to make sulfur. But I am talking about a challenge. Can we convert H2S to only hydrogen plus sulfur? Is it an impossible task? Ponder over it. Then you will produce simultaneously hydrogen, which can be recycled for your hydrodesulfurization. Like that, can we replace ethane in place of ethylene? There is now an elaborate paper on how vinyl chloride from ethane will be much cheaper than ethylene. We tried to initiate that work. My friends in NCL took up, but we don't have tenacity. We didn't take it to the right conclusion. Will we be able to make hydrogen peroxide by direct reaction of hydrogen and oxygen? Several papers have come. It will completely change the dynamics of making Mr. Clean, the hydrogen peroxide. See, chemical industry, therefore, is indispensable. Life will be very poor without the produce of chemical, but life is much better with the produce of chemical industry. And sustainability, green chemistry, I've given you innumerable examples how propylene oxide today is being made from propylene plus hydrogen peroxide. We are not able to do direct oxidation of propylene to propylene oxide, unlike ethylene to ethylene oxide, because allylic oxidation is favored. But it is not much of a magic if we are able to now come out with direct oxidation of propylene to propylene oxide. But even doing with hydrogen peroxide is a great triumph rather than co-production of styrene and hydrogen peroxide or tertiary butanol and hydrogen peroxide. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy that very good, very outstanding tributes are being paid to this stalwart Ganpati Dada Yadav, who's, I said, ever smiling, he's smiling just now also. It is a fitting tribute, and your presence in good numbers adds to the greatness of this tribute. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for inviting me to share my thoughts on the topic and pay my tributes. But I invite you to read my tributes to him in the souvenir that will be brought out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Sharma, for this very, very insightful talk. I would like to inform the audience that we have a plenary talk by Dr. R.A. Mashelkar, who is the Chancellor of ICT. But since he could not be here physically, it will be played virtually via video. So I request everyone to please be seated for the duration of his talk. Post that, we will break for lunch. So please give a big round of applause firstly to Professor M.M. Sharma for his amazing plenary talk. And let us go to the virtual talk by Dr. Arya Mashelkar.
Good morning. I want to begin with two apologies. The first, I'm not able to be present in this wonderful celebration of Professor G.D. Yadav because of some other commitments that I just couldn't avoid. And the second is my voice. I've had a very severe throat infection, temperature and so on, so I'm pumping some tablets so that I can be present to bless Professor G.D. Yadav. So forgive me for my voice. What can I say about G.D.? According to me, he's a phenomenon. You know, God makes us in assembly lines, and sometimes he has some time at his disposal. And I think when he made Professor G.D. Yadav, he had time at his disposal. He is very, very special. His infinite energy, his infinite enthusiasm is absolutely uncomparable. And I have seen him from his student days when he was doing his PhD thesis with Professor M.M. Sharma. You know, as an individual, if I were to describe him, I would simply say his innovation, compassion and passion. Innovation up here, innovation is all about doing things differently and making a difference. All his life he has done that. Compassion, empathy, you can quite clearly see the number of activities of his which shows his humility as well as humanity. And of course what he does is with passion. But also as an institutional leader, I would again summarize his entire career in 3 words. The expansion, integration and excellence. Expansion, it was during his tenure that ICT expanded its campuses to Bhubaneswar and Marathwada. If you look at excellence, just see the numbers in terms of the high quality research papers, the way they went up, the citations that went up, the number of PhDs that went up, the new academic programs that went up, the national rankings that went up, and interestingly the patents. You know, ICT has been doing very well in many ways. In patents, I would still say that we have to yet perform, but if you look at GD, as I call him, Professor G.D. Yadav, there also he has scored. For example, last year he was elected to National Academy of Inventors. Election to National Academy of Inventors is only on the basis of patents, and that is where he actually scored. And I'm very happy that the only 2 National Academy of Inventors are from our institute, Institute of Chemical Technology. One is Professor G.D. Yadav and another one who is speaking to you. So one feels very, very proud indeed. And then of course integration, the number of programs that he has had with institutions in India, institutions abroad is absolutely phenomenal. One of the characteristics that I saw of him is that once he takes over an organization and when he leaves, there is no resemblance with what he took over. Look at IChemE, for example, Institution of Chemical Engineers. It had stagnated, and somehow or the other he brought kinetic energy into it, and you could see that he created 51 new awards by connecting with industry, and his convening power is unbelievable. Nobody can say no to him. And I watched that in the Indian Chemical Society. I was in Kolkata on the other day, and the way he is transforming it. So he is a transformer, so as to say. He has also contributed, of course, to national policies on education and so on and so forth. I would like to end by reminding GD of the messages that I always give to young people. The first is have divine discontent, don't be satisfied with what you have, and also continuously say my best is yet to come, and today is the day. So GD, you are 70 But here is a challenge for you. What you will do in next 10 years will be far more than what you have done for 70 years. All my best wishes, all my choicest blessings are with you. I wish I was there to give our characteristic hug. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I would like to thank the audience for attending this event and for making it a success. So we move for lunch post that. We have completed the program well before time. So the lunch will be served in another half an hour. Feel free to take this time to socialize, to meet, network, and lunch will be served shortly. I'll make an announcement as soon as it is ready. I kindly request everyone to please discard their plastic bottles in the assigned space and not leave them at their seats. Thank you. Thank you all at the dais for giving us time. Thank you, sir. The oral and poster presentations. So I'm happy to report that ACS has sponsored the awards for poster presentation. There will be 6 awards of 3,000 rupees each. And for the oral presentations, there will be also 6 awards sponsored by Kunash Instruments, which will be 5,000 rupees each. So I wish all of you luck and please enjoy SusChemE 2.0. Thank you. I'd like to point out that the invited speaker talks will be taking place in the KV auditorium and the general engineering classrooms. Please refer to the schedule that was handed to you at the registration desk.